Hello everyone and welcome to Butterfly Dreams Crochet. My name is Jeannie and I would like to take a moment to welcome all of my new butterflies that have came over and hit that subscribe button. Thank y'all so very much for joining the Butterfly Squad. You are now part of my YouTube family. And for those that have been with me what seems like forever, and I mean forever, thank y'all so very much. Everything y'all do is much appreciated. I don't know how I could actually show y'all how much I appreciate y'all more than what I already do. Y'all are the reason why I do what I do. And I wanted to start doing yarn reviews for my channel. So anytime I work with a yarn, I will make 3 swatches, one in crochet, one in knit, and one in Tunisian, and let y'all know what I think about the yarn. Once I work with it, you'll get the review. I am not affiliated with any yarn companies, none whatsoever. Any yarn review that I do will be my complete honest opinion and what I personally think about the yarn. So no bias here, none whatsoever. You get what you get. Like I always like to say, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. So the yarn we will be reviewing this week will be Yarn Bee, Tweed Indeed. And we're going to talk about the label first, and then we'll get into the swatches here, and we'll look at the stitch definition of each one and stuff like that. I'll let you know that I have a problem with splitting, how soft the yarn is. Did the flex, the little flecks in there, did they fall off during crochet, or did they get stuck on your shirt when you was crocheting, and all that stuff. I'll let you know everything. But first we're going to look at the label. We're going to talk about the yarn label, and we're going to discuss what's on the yarn labels, as well as why is each thing on there important. So let me grab this yarn, get the label up where y'all can see it, and let's get into it. Okay, so this is Yarn Bee. It's a Hobby Lobby yarn. They sell it for $5.99. It was on clearance this year for $1.49. And it is called Tweed Indeed. Pumpkin tweed. You get 3.5 ounces and 180 yards. And the top that I used this yarn to make, it took 2 skeins of this. And this is actually what I had left over. And this one is in the blue chambray color. Chambray tweed is what it's called. So I will insert a picture of the top that I made for y'all to see it somewhere in this point of the video. Alright, so you got art number 93, color pumpkin tweed, or number 6. Alright, you see a lot number 009319. A lot of people are like, well, why is the lot number important? I have noticed, especially at Hobby Lobby, when they do their clearance, they could have 6 skeins of one color of yarn, and it is, you might find 2 in there that have the same dye lot. And if you look at all the yarns in the store, they seem to look like the same colorway, the same colors, but there could be a slight difference, or there could not be a difference. When they create this yarn in these colors, they have a certain amount of yarn. They give them dye lots. Once they reach the end of that spool that they're spinning the yarn from and creating these skeins, they go to another spool, and that one may have a different dye lot number. The dyes could be a little bit lighter. The dyes could be a little bit darker. So when you're working on a project and you're buying yarn from a yarn store, make sure that you match up your dye lots to make sure that they are the same. I was lucky enough to get 2 skeins with the same dye lot numbers. Now sometimes your eyes does not see the difference in the shades of the dyeing of the yarn, of the colors of the yarn, which is the dye. And you won't see it until you start working with it. That's why it's important to make sure that you get enough of the same dye lot to complete your project. But anytime you're shopping the Hobby Lobby yarn clearance, don't just go in there grabbing the yarn off the shelf that they got that's on clearance to clean them out. Unless you just want to, make sure that you get most of the yarn that has the same dye lots. Unless you just don't care about it being a different shade of color. So that is why the dye lots are very, very important. And I do have some here of a different, it's yarn be yarn, but it's a different type of yarn that I will show y'all. And the dye lots are different after we get through with this. So like I said, you get 3.5 ounces, 100 grams, 180 yards, or 165 meters. You get 46% acetate, 46% cotton, 6% viscose, and 2% polyester. Now, acetate is a plant-based, and they refer to it a lot as fake silk. Okay, so the viscose is made from wood pulp, and it will provide excellent color retention. It's highly absorbent. It's very, very smooth. It does not trap body heat, so it will make this even cooler. And it's relatively light, and it also blends well with other fibers, and it is very breathable, and it's made from wood pulp. So that's where the viscose comes from. They recommend a 5mm knitting needle and a 5.5 crochet hook. Now these little squares that you see on your yarn band, these are swatches that whoever tested the yarn determined in order to get a 4" by 4" swatch, you have to do 18 stitches and 23 rows using a 5mm knitting needle. And for the crochet, you do 13 single crochets and 14 rows with a 5.5mm crochet hook, and a 4" by, will yield you a 4" by 4" swatch. Now just keep in mind that that is only as good as the person who did the swatch. You don't know what hook they used. You don't know what kind of needles, knitting needles they used to determine that. That's why anytime you are working with a pattern, it is always important that you check your gauge based on the pattern. And most patterns come with a gauge swatch. It'll tell you that so many double crochets or single crochets and so many rows equals a 4" by 4" swatch. Always check your gauge. Because gauge, even in patterns, are determined based on the person who is creating the pattern and designing it. They're the ones who determine the gauge. So, what do I like about this yarn? I like everything about it. It's soft. It crochets up really, really nice. It knits nice. And using my Tunisian bamboo crochet hook, it worked up really, really well. And no problems with snagging, no problem with splitting, none of that. Glides on the Clover or More crochet hooks effortlessly. Goes through, pulling it through my hand, it glides through my fingers just amazing. No roughness or anything like that to it. The flakes that are on it do not come off while you're crocheting with it, and they do not come off on your clothes like some tweed yarns have a tendency to do. So I highly, highly recommend this yarn. This yarn would be wonderful for summer wearables. Whether it's a shawl, whether it's a top, whether it's a tank top, whether it's a beach cover-up. I would also use this to make items for children, but I would not use it for infants, only because of the tweed that's in it. Because even though they do not come off when you crochet with it, you can easily pick them off. Now, I say that for infants and babies because, you know, they grab, especially if it's a blanket or anything like that, they'll grab it, they'll put it in their mouth, they'll chew on it, and you wouldn't want these little flecks coming off in their mouth. So, but for toddlers who are beyond that stage of chewing on their blankets and stuff like that, for children up to 10, 12 years old or older, I would use it for. So toddlers and up, this yarn is wonderful for. Newborns up to about 2, I wouldn't use it for. Only because of the flecks that are in it. But other than that, I really don't have anything bad to say about this yarn, other than I hope Hobby Lobby is not discontinuing this altogether, and that they only discontinue these certain colors, and that they will be getting more of this yarn. So let's look at the crocheted swatch. Let's look at the stitch definition. Look at that stitch definition. It is amazing. Like I said, I had no issues with splitting, no issues with it falling off my hook, none of that stuff. Absolutely. And look, it's got a little bit of stretch to it. And the viscose also helps hold its, helps fabric hold its shape. Look at that. Just absolutely beautiful. Just gorgeous. So with this one right here, if I wanted to test a swatch, say this, I'm going to make something using double crochets and V-stitches. And I'm going to do a little swatch to determine my gauge. Now I used a 5.5 clover hook. I'm going to get my ruler. And I'm going to put it here at the top of this V-stitch. Well, let's do it down here at the double crochets. So, in order for this to be 4 inches across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 double crochets would give me 4 inches. Now, let's see how many rows would give me 4 inches. I almost don't have 4 inches, do I? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 rows would give me 4 inches. That is 4 inches using double crochets and V-stitches. That would yield me 4 inches. So if I work something up with this and created a pattern, I tell you 14 double crochets and 7 rows equals a 4-inch by 4-inch swatch, then that is what it took me to make my gauge. You may crochet tighter than me, you may crochet looser than me, and you will have to play around with it to get the gauge to where it needs to be based on the design. So that is why the gauge is important. So for the knitting, from this stitch marker to this stitch marker is the 18 rows. This does come out to be 4 inches. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And from top to bottom is 23 rows, which is what they said. And that gives me 4 inches. So using the 5mm Knitter Pride circular needles that I used, I was able to get the same gauge that they did on the swatch. Now I can't say that this is the same as the crochet gauge because I did not do single crochets. I did not. Now I didn't worry about the gauge on the Tunisian. I just wanted to show y'all how it looks worked up in Tunisian. For the knit, I did the stocking stitch where I just did 1 row of knit, 1 row of purl, 1 row of knit, 1 row of purl. And I did the Tunisian knit stitch for this swatch. So this looks like this, but it's more thicker and more dense. I don't get as much stretch with the Tunisian as I do with the knit. I do get the stretch this way on knit, and I do get it on that with the Tunisian, but not as much. So you lose some of that stretch with Tunisian versus your knit. Now, had some fuzz on it. With Tunisian, you can acquire a lot of your knit stitches. The only difference is Tunisian is a lot thicker. Let me put it down here where you can see it better. See how much thicker that is? If I turn this over on the back, it looks the same. It's just thicker. Still got your little bumps and your little waves going on. I really prefer the simple Tunisian stitch. It gives you like little boxes when you crochet it. But I really, if I'm going to use Tunisian, I'm going to use a smaller yarn, like a 3 or 2 weight yarn. They do have lace stitches in Tunisian that makes a pretty lace projects and stuff. And it's more open and airy and more drapey. Now this yarn, even in Tunisian, it's flexible, it's drapey, but it's more dense. Now Tunisian is gonna curl. I don't care what you do, it's gonna curl up on you. Compared to this is more lightweight. This is a little more heavier because of the density of it with the Tunisian. So for crochet, absolutely love it. For knit, absolutely love it. For Tunisian, I absolutely love it. You're just going to get a thicker, more dense material, fabric. Your project will be a lot thicker. So, and with Tunisian, you get like these little ridges. The knit is a little bit more closer to it. So, but yes, this is my review of the Tweed Indeed. I hope y'all enjoy it. Again, I'll insert a picture of the blue chambray tweed top that I made using that yarn. And I'm going to bring in these two that have different dye lots. Now this is stitch 101 50-50 right there. You see the dye lots are different. 5238 and 101679. This is acetate and modal, and this colorway is rose. So looking at these yarns, they appear to be the same color, and they very well could be, but honestly I would not know until I work with them, because it's not until you put them in a project that you really notice the difference. Now I have more that matches these die lights. I just grabbed these two because the die lights were different, just to show you the difference in the die lights. And I know on camera they look like they are the exact same color. In person, to me, this one looks like it has a little bit of a darker dye than this one does. It looks a little bit lighter. But again, you wouldn't know until you work with it. So, hope y'all enjoy this yarn review. Let me know in the comments down below if you've actually worked with the Tweed and Deed and what you think about it. And let me know what you think about these yarn reviews. And until next week, when I do another yarn review, although y'all see me again tomorrow, because I got to pick the winner for the giveaway, and I'll be doing my Whip It Good Wednesday to show y'all things that I'm working on. And also, I'll be posting videos all throughout the week. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed day. Remember to smile. You never know when it might turn someone's frown upside down. And that smile could actually make a person's day. Remember to always be kind to one another. And if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say nothing at all. And I will see y'all in the YouTube streets. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed day. Bye-bye.